Too many children are missing too much school. That is the conclusion of a new report from the school leadership charity The Difference. It found that absences from school are up by 2/3 since before the pandemic. To put that in context, children in this country lost in total around 6.8 million days of learning in the autumn term of 2019. That's 6.8 million. Now, look at the same period in 2023, 11.5. Isn't that incredible? Equivalent to every child in Bolton missing school for an entire year, up, as I say, by 2/3. And we need to know the reasons. Is it still pandemic trauma? Is it the spike in school exclusions in recent years? Is it linked to the crisis in special needs education? Maybe you know all about it because your child has been having more time off school and you can tell us why. And more importantly, perhaps you can tell us what would help to get them back into the classroom. The word truanting isn't really helpful here, is it? vine@bbc.co.uk is the email. Please include your phone number so we can call you back. You can text us 88291. And yeah, we'd love WhatsApp on 08000 288 291. So I'm joined now by Kieran Mahil, who's assistant head teacher at a school in East London. Hello.
Hello.
And also sitting right in front of me is Anna Maxwell Martin, the actress we all know from Motherland and Line of Duty and so many other things. Good afternoon.
Hello, Jeremy.
All right, let's just talk about then your situation, if you don't mind first, Anna, because you have a child in exactly this situation.
Yeah, so I have been involved in this personally for a few years and then sort of joining all this amazing advocacy work. I'm here with obviously Kieran today, and we have another associate, another Kieran outside, who's part of The Difference. And I work with someone called Ellie Costello at Square Peg and lots of different people, and they're trying to raise awareness around this problem. And really, my take on it is, I'm not a professional like Kieran. She is, highly experienced and knows everything. I know very, very little.
Well, you're a mum,
but I know how I feel, and how I feel is that we as a society and then governmentally and in policy, we need to support schools in having much more compassion towards children and actively listening to them and supporting them and giving them value and worth and making them feel safe in schools. And therefore, they'll be more able to attend. All these children, it's a chronic problem, have a jigsaw of different issues. And we can list them all. So you have just listed a few of them. It's really, really complex. But essentially, in terms of school, we need to be able to support school to meet their needs.
Can you tell us a bit more about your own daughter?
I can't talk a lot about it because it's her story, her life. But I certainly know, and I now have met lots and lots of parents who've been through this and some of the work I do, that it is incredibly difficult in the home. It's incredibly difficult for these young people who feel unable to attend school full time. And I think we're in a culture where, especially with the fining and the prosecutions and the sort of fear of exclusion, I think we're probably not going about meeting children's needs in the right way.
Okay, Kieran, can you tell me more about what you see as assistant head teacher?
Sure. So we have noticed that there are more children in crisis than before. There are more children who do have a set of needs that do need to be responded to within the school system. Now, what that looks like is perhaps children struggling to come to school, struggling to regulate and focus on their learning when they are in the classroom. None of these problems are insurmountable, though. I think the first is a recognition that children are having an increased set of needs, and the system needs to be able to be agile and adapted enough to respond to them, because every child matter in this country, and every child deserves an education.
Okay, understood. But we have a teaching system that is stretched to breaking point at the moment, and I don't understand how it can become more agile when you've got teachers just struggling to do their jobs.
Absolutely, and some of the reasons...
what that means, actually.
So there are some very practical solutions as to how to overcome these problems, and I've been involved, as Anna's talked about, in the Who's Losing Learning coalition campaign to come up with some of these solutions. One of this lies in saying that the system itself values academic success over everything, and actually those are some of the pressures in the system, and should we start measuring other things that we value? But then very practically on the ground, what do we do to support the staff staff who get up every day and in the dark days through that autumn term and keep turning up to school. What do teachers and leaders want? Well, we do want a set of, training and more support, but ultimately as well, schools need additional resource. We can move mountains for these children. Some of my staff make miracles happen, but they're not magicians. People need people. And
so, because at the moment, obviously, there's this. I've just done an item about the spring statement. There's no money, all that usual stuff. It's all they've taken it out of foreign aid. They put it in defence because we need more soldiers.
But the thing is, Jeremy, our everything about our society, our future. If we talk about crime against women, prisons, everything we talk about, unsocial behaviour, everything comes from children. Everything comes from the child. People under 18 feeling valued, having their worth noticed, being given opportunities. Everything comes from children. So we need to value children, and that means schools. So we need to put more into schools.
All right. I'm only struggling here, Anna, because I've read your story. You've been so frank in the papers, and I'm trying to just get you to say a bit more about your own story. But I don't want to tread on your toes, but only because you've been so public about it. And now I'm feeling, am I asking the wrong questions or what?
No, I think it's really obvious. I've
honestly
personally gone through this myself.
Tell me more about it.
It's very brutalising being at the sharp end of trying to keep your child in school when they're struggling to attend. And they're not struggling to attend. Chronic non-attendance is not the condition. It's not the condition we should be treating. It's the jigsaw of things that's going on for that child. And of course, I have seen firsthand, and it is distressing for me and for my child, when a child is struggling with a whole host of different things. And for children now, that might be neurodiversity of any different kind, or an anxiety disorder, COVID hangover, as you say. Let's think about stats around poverty in London. We have 1 in 4 children who are affected by poverty in this city. I don't know why we've normalised that stat. It's disgusting. And then if you think about school, well, no wonder some of that statistic are struggling to get into school. Because you would too, wouldn't you? Poverty trauma is very, very real.
Well, COVID, I assume, is the biggest thing, isn't it?
Well, no.
Because COVID seems to be the thing
I'd love to move on from talking about COVID. I think let's talk about now and how we need to support children now. And I think it's obvious I've gone through this myself because I feel angry and I really care. And I really care about not othering children and not excluding children, because the minute you exclude a child, especially a vulnerable child, the stats around that child are dire. Children die after being excluded from schools. That is a fact. Let's take away feelings and just deal in facts. And the facts are depressing.
So if I read from a recent interview, you said this: after my husband died, every aspect of our lives were really difficult. One aspect was financial terror. And of course, there are huge worries around your children and their mental health. And of course, protecting them is your priority. And it sounds, Anna, as if no one else really cared about the situation that you were in. You had to deal with it on your own.
Well, I don't expect anyone to care. I'm a very resilient...
School might.
Well, I'm a very resilient... I'd expect the school to care about my child.
That's what I mean.
Absolutely. And understand her story. Not always, but what I really care about is when I think about myself and how privileged I am and the privileged position I'm in and how terrifying that situation was for me. When you add in your child being unable to go to school, of course that impacts your work. That impacts the money that's coming into your house. Then you're threatened with a fine or prosecution. When I think about a vulnerable mum, single mum, or a vulnerable single dad bringing up a child, if a fine is put in front of them or fines are talked about and they have the choice of either paying a fine because their child is unable to attend, they've missed work, they've missed the shift at work, they're not bringing enough money, or paying their electricity bill, which one should they be doing? I think is pretty obvious. So to me, that's, in terms of government, that's brutalising and barbaric. We're not talking fines because people go on holiday.
I was going to say, what's so funny is we have done again and again and again the story about holiday fines. And I'm sort of seeing your face as you sit in front of me, and I'm thinking, when you hear that story, you must go up the wall.
I go up the wall, and what I say to people who are fine from going on holiday, how absolutely gorgeous for you, my darlings, that you've been on a lovely holiday. And I would say to you, if you've just been on a holiday and missed school and had to pay a fine, maybe you could think about poverty in London and support. There's a wonderful charity I support called Sponsor Stars, who support children living in poverty in this city, and it helps them get into school with just some of the basic needs that they have. Maybe contribute to a charity like that if you've just had a holiday yourself. That would be a really wonderful contribution to society. We're not talking about that. We're talking about children who are, Kieran can talk more about this, but really, really struggling with a whole host of different difficulties.
I tell you what, stay with us. If you don't mind, I'll play some music, and then maybe there might be a caller who can say something about what you're discussing here. It's about how we see those kids who are not in school, because people use the word truant, and it's much more complicated. So we are discussing those children who are absent from school, and we're not calling them truants because, as Anna Maxwell Martin is saying, and often there's a complicated story there. Just checking that I'm phrasing that right, Anna.
I'm just struggling with my headphones.
Where do they connect to the desk?
No, I've done it now. No, what I'd say on that point is
wait, before you say it, let's bring a caller in.
Okay.
So, interestingly, Debbie and Juliet are on the line. Hello. So Debbie is a former teacher. Hi, Debbie.
Hi.
And Juliet is there as well. And how are you doing, Juliet? You're a pupil or a parent or what?
I'm a pupil, yeah. Okay.
And I gather that you very much relate to what Anna and Kieran have been saying.
Yeah.
So you stopped going to school, did you, Juliet?
Yeah, I did 3 years ago.
Okay. Well, how much do you think you can say to us about that?
There's a lot about it, really. There's kind of a lot of things to do with it. It's like the reasons why.
Yeah. Well, I kept saying COVID, but I was Anna said it's not all about COVID.
Yeah, with me, I had undiagnosed autism and ADHD, and I got diagnosed probably about a year ago with my ADHD and a year and a half ago with my autism.
All right. And Debbie, you're a tutor now, so you're tutoring Juliet, are you?
I am, yes. She's got her exams coming up shortly, so I'm tutoring her for her GCSEs, English and Maths.
Well, how lovely of you to call us.
Oh, well done.
An awful lot of school.
Well done.
So, well, Juliet, how are you doing? That's the main question.
It was like, I seemed to have caught up quite quick, but it was really difficult because I've missed out of like a lot of learning. So I was kind of forced to catch up quick, especially with obviously doing my GCSEs and stuff.
And when someone said to you, you've got autism and ADHD, did that in a way help you?
Not necessarily. I think with my ADHD, it made it really difficult for me to concentrate, and there was loads, like it just kind of, my head never stopped. So that also played a part with actual school because I never really received help for it. And it was very, like, the teachers were very misunderstanding.
Kieran, like you're saying, there's so much mental health struggle, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's lovely to hear from Juliet, and I wish her all the best for her exams. I would want to see that there are more schools that are able to work with Juliet to get her back into school and learning, because some of the struggles that she's mentioned, having to catch up, doing that by herself in isolation, actually, I'm sure that it will work out for Juliet. But her childhood experience could have been more fulfilled if she was back in school learning with her peers. And I think schools up and down the country are doing some really pioneering and wonderful work to try to meet the needs of young people. But it's not a system-wide, sector-wide journey. And it really needs to be, to make sure that all of our young people are getting the opportunities to learning.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Juliet. Juliet, best of luck to you. Sarah, not your real name. Your son had a big breakdown.
Yes, he did. So we had always struggled pre-COVID with getting him into school, and I'd always thought that maybe he was on the spectrum. We got a diagnosis in 2019. But I was always that parent at the school gate who had the child absolutely screaming, sort of being forced through the door. And we couldn't get any HCP. We were told that an educational healthcare plan, because once he was in, he was fine. At the beginning of year 6, he became very unwell, and we decided to deregister him, which was to take him out of school completely.
Right.
and not chosen lightly. My husband was a headmaster at the time in state education, so works in schools. And we took him out, and within a week he had the most severe breakdown, sort of overnight, stopped completely eating, drinking, sleeping. And
after coming out of school?
Yeah, because I think what they had said was that it was autistic burnout.
Okay.
So he had been holding it together for so long, and then suddenly we sort of took away all that pressure.
Wow.
And within 4 days, it just kind of hit. And for us, it was getting him under CAMS that was so difficult.
This is the adolescent mental health service here. Well, Anna, you've probably been down that route, have you? I don't know.
Oh, Sarah, I'm so sorry. I really recognise you. I see you. I'm so sorry. It's such a difficult journey for you and for your son. You've been so brave, as has he. I wish there was more support. I wish getting the support was easier to access and easier to understand. It's impossible to navigate. I think often we feel pressured to take them off role and take them out because we feel the burnout ourselves. We think, I can't get the help. No one's seeing my child. The resources aren't there. And I salute you.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it has worked out all right. We took him out, and so he had a breakdown. I had a breakdown because, of course, the years of dragging him in. But actually, my husband took time off work, and we took time as a family to basically throw him into homeschool stuff that wasn't academic. It was forest school. It was cooking. It was doing a bit of crafting. And building, we fought for an EHCP, and then at the beginning of last summer, he said to us, I really want to try and go back to the school where all my friends are, which was then the state secondary school, which is huge. But we went in with our EHCP, and they had the right provision in place, and he's thriving.
Well, that's brilliant, Sarah.
Amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, both of you, for coming in. That's an incredible conversation we just had. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Jeremy.
It's not at all. It's made us think differently about lots of things.